Hey everyone, welcome back to Ragtag Stacking. In today's video I want to talk a little bit about inflation, and as you know, inflation is kind of going wild all over the place. If you've been watching my channel for any amount of time, you do know that I live up in Canada. I live in Toronto, and I did come across an article that I'm going to touch on in a bit, but the article talks about the inflation rate in March up here in Canada, and it was quite high. It skyrocketed past what the expectations were for the month. And yeah, as I said, I'll get to that in a second. But yeah, as you can see with the stuff scrolling by on the screen, inflation is hitting a lot of countries. And I have heard a lot of people worried or kind of wondering or asking questions as to why silver and gold haven't really been keeping up with the recent inflation that we're seeing. So I previously did a video talking about this, and they were going over some of the reasons why it isn't really keeping up with it. And the main reason they gave is that, as we know, silver and gold usually act in, the reverse of what the dollar is doing. So when you see a strong dollar, you usually see gold and silver like kind of on a downward trend, and then the inverse, when the dollar is down, you usually see gold and silver going up. We've all seen the memes about, just the money machine and all that stuff. But yeah, they're basically printing money out of nowhere, and just the inflation is going through the roof. And a lot of people are saying we're seeing this inflation and we're hearing that silver and gold is supposed to be a good hedge against it. Why is it not acting that way in this case? And they gave the example saying that yes, the US dollar, isn't doing the greatest, but compared to some of the other currencies in the world, it's not doing too bad. You can see that some of the other countries and their currencies are either doing as bad, but a lot of them are doing worse than, the American dollar. So when you're looking at it and comparing it and trading it against other currencies, the American dollar is still pretty strong on a global scale. So I can see what they're saying, talking about the US dollar in comparison against some of the other currencies isn't faring as bad as some of the other ones. But if the situation were different and it was just America that was having this financial problem, and it was just the American dollar that was suffering through this record high inflation, then you might see the change in the gold and silver prices, because if the other currencies are still doing strong, then it might make sense to be trading and not picking up as many American dollars, and trading out of it into some other currencies, and then you might start seeing the dollar really taking a hit, and then gold and silver really going up. But anyways, like I said, I did find this article that was talking about Canada. Yay! Unfortunately, they were talking about the record high inflation that we're seeing here. I believe the inflation rate in the article, it said that it has reached a 30-year high. So Canada and our Canadian dollar is not faring any better than some of those other countries that you saw scrolling by there, with all the highlights and all the headlines you saw from talking about March's inflation numbers from around the world. Canada was no better, and this article here is going to be talking about it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to jump onto the computer and go over some of Canada's stats when it comes to the inflation rate and how much it's gone up. Okay, so this is the website here. It's on Yahoo Finance, and it says Canadian inflation blows past expectations, spiking to 6.7%. It says Canadian consumer price inflation shot past expectations in March, jumping to a new 3-decade high and cementing expectations the Bank of Canada will continue with aggressive interest rate hikes in coming weeks. It says annual inflation last month was up the 6.7%, up from 5.7% in February. Statistics Canada reported Wednesday in Ottawa. That's the highest since January of 1991 and exceeds the median estimate of 6.1% in Bloomberg survey of economists. It says the report shows inflation pressures that are more elevated than central banks estimated last week, reinforcing pressure on policymakers led by Governor Tiff Macklem to withdraw stimulus from an overheating economy. Investors see strong probability of a second half percentage point increase at its next meeting after officials delivered a jumbo hike last week. It says goods inflation hit 9.2% in March, the highest since 1982. So now we're going back to a 40-year high there. And it says services inflation rose 4.3%, the highest since 2003. The gasoline prices were up 12% on the month and 40% from a year earlier. Food prices were up 7.7% from a year earlier after a 0.9% gain in March. And grocery prices were up 8.7%. And yeah, that's where I've been seeing it the most. I've been seeing like just the grocery bill just going through the roof on a weekly basis. It's always just going up and up. And yeah, it does not seem like it's going to be getting any better. So yeah, that was just a little video here that I wanted to show you because yeah, I live up here in Canada and just wanted to see that, just wanted to show you that the inflation is just as bad here as you know, all those other places that you saw in the intro with that clip going through of all the headlines of the different countries experiencing awful inflation. Canada is no different. We are not, you know, we are in the same boat as everybody else because inflation is just skyrocketing with no clear end in sight. So there you go, that was the video there, and yeah, so it is at a 30-year high up here in Canada for the inflation rate, and it does not seem like it's going to be getting any better anytime soon. Grocery prices, those are just the absolute worst. Every single time, it just seems, it's weekly. You just get a kick in the teeth every time you walk down, you know, you get a kick in the teeth when you walk down each aisle. And yeah, you really feel it with the grocery shopping. You know, gas is bad, obviously, and there's other things that are being affected, but man, you're really noticing it with the grocery bill. And obviously we're not in winter anymore, and you know, living up in Canada, I'm kind of a little bit of a prepper by default, especially in the winter months where, you know, you want to stock up a little bit on, you know, some extra food and gas for the generator, just because we do have some pretty historically horrible winters. But I'm going to continue doing that throughout this year just to try and stock up a little bit on what I can, just you know, in case stuff gets way majorly expensive and you can't afford all the stuff. So I'm trying to pick up a little bit here, a little bit there, trying to stack up the pantry a little bit. And I do it just, you know, do grocery shopping every week or so. I try to pick one item each week to really, you know, go hard on and stack up. You know, one week it might be picking up a bunch of extra bottled water, then the next week, you know, some rice, the next week, whatever it is. Each time I go to the grocery store, it's not spending too much extra money, but I'm trying to stock up on one essential thing that you should have in your pantry just for, you know, extra supplies. The inflation going wild and the price is going up, it's getting harder and harder to stack more away. You know, the stuff, you know, if you're picking up, you know, normally you'd be picking up 4 big bags of rice. Now, you know, it's just getting to the point where, you know, you're at the end of the grocery list and your budget's almost done. Maybe you can only pick up 3 extra bags. So, you know, you're definitely, or at least I'm definitely seeing the impact of inflation at the grocery store the most. And yeah, I know from the my YouTube stats that the majority of the people watching this are in North America, but I have talked, and there are a lot of awesome people that are from outside of North America, so I would like to hear from you guys as well. And you know, if you're starting to feel it in your pocketbooks with, you know, every trip to the grocery store or every time you gas up your car, because, you know, I hear it daily in here about the how bad it's getting in Canada and the US. And as you can see from the intro there, you know, all those headlines from all the countries that are suffering from the inflation. So I do know that it's globally, and you know, unfortunately it's hitting everybody differently, but let me know down in the comments how you guys are handling it. But anyways, that's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching, and hope you come back for the next one. Thank you.